Hello, hello. How we doing tonight? And yes, Wolfie, I am a big country guy. Definitely. Full of surprises. Yes, sir. Awesome to hear, Andrew. Awesome to hear. As I said yesterday, I was finally starting to feel better. Now I feel fucking great. So it's really nice to have some energy flowing back in, especially when we have a day like today. Now, we'll look at it, but definitely a little bit harder to navigate, but for me, filled with opportunity. Starting on a daily chart, right? What are our levels? It's always like that. It's always, okay, well, what are my levels? Well, first of all, my lower level is this level of liquidity that we already took on Tuesday. Now, we also had, what were we looking at yesterday? This one, right? I was discussing how I would have liked to see CPI go lower into this level where ES would take out this other level. But we already had SMT below. So it was not necessary. It would have been best case scenario, and we'll look at it. CPI ran higher, and then we had a huge fall down because we did not take out this level. But since we got that fall down, then I could start looking for long. So we'll look into it, but definitely very nice on the higher time frame charts, right? With our SMT at this low. Let me remove this and frame this correctly. And yeah, we just had SMT at this level, very clear, took out the low bit below. And then what are you going to be targeting? Well, first off, it's going to be that fair value gap. And you may notice that we have to include the volume imbalance, which in this case is our new week opening gap. Let me actually bring the indicators back. I'll have a question for you guys in a second. You'll see some weird shit has been going on with my NASDAQ and ES charts today. So I want to know if I'm the only one or if you guys as well. But definitely big objective also at the new week opening gap, which is what I was trying to showcase up here. But when I have such a huge gap, split it into quarters. Always, always, always. If we look, we reached into the first quarter and didn't go further, which is what we call an institutional order flow entry drill. So if you had a short setup here, you could have taken it as well. So nice day of offering both sides, and we'll go down our time frames and look at it. And you guys let me know, but I've been getting these blue boxes, and it is so fucking weird. Am I the only one? Because if so, I might need to contact TradingView support here. But I have these blue boxes, and they just show up on my NASDAQ and ES charts. I have no clue what they mean. Don't have that? Okay, well, they showed up yesterday, so is my subscription gone? No, I have premium. Okay, well, I'll contact TradingView. Well, actually, my subscription might be gone because I have the watermark. Okay, well, you guys will see this, I guess, or no, you're not seeing this. Just give me a sec. I actually want to check because I'm like, why the fuck? No, I have premium subscription still. Okay. And why is there a watermark? That watermark is not supposed to be there. Okay. Well, should be in chart settings. Now see the watermark was that. So definitely some weird stuff going on with my trading view at the moment. So I'm going to contact support. They're watching you. Well, I guess so, because they just put some ugly ass blue lines all over my charts. So please disregard this. It doesn't mean anything. It's just something I have to fix. And no, it's not one of my indicators. And you can always, in case you're wondering, you can always go to your object tree right here, and you can see every single drawing there is, and you can try and remove it and stuff like that and see it's not even the data series. It's really just my chart background. So I'll have to mess around and figure out why, but for today, we'll have to see this. Yeah, sometimes it's overnight session, sometimes it's not, which is why it's a little weird. Maybe actually switching from ETH to RTH. See, regular trading hours, it's not there. But yeah, you're right. Definitely something there. I have seen that before, couldn't figure it out either. It went away. Okay, well, I'll contact TradingView support because it's ugly. That's it. It's really just ugly. But for today, you guys will have to bear with me. We'll have to live through this. So let's look at this. All right, we're looking at our movement from today, and yes, it is extremely painful to look at here. So it's regular trading hours, basically. So everything that isn't at 9:30. Looking at this, we're always thinking power of three, right? Yesterday, of course, we have our raid, we have our SMT. So higher time frame tells you, okay, well, let's go to this fair value gap higher. Okay. Does the power of three align? Yes. You open, you consolidated, you manipulated during London, very high probability low of day right here into the new day opening gap, and then you expanded higher. What did not 9:30? What did our 8:30 news do? Our CPI, it expanded higher into our higher time frame point of interest. Did you have SMT at this point? I didn't find any quickly this morning. Let's actually review this. So there was actually a very obvious SMT that I missed on the 15-minute. I think I was on a higher time frame chart. But you did have it. Sorry about that. You did have SMT at this area as well. So you have everything to start framing shorts at this point. Your higher time frame level, you can frame some shorts, whether it's a retracement or an expansion. You can clearly frame some shorts. And moreover, you have a London framework, right? Took the overnight highs, and if you look, for those of you that have Rise statistics, right, you go to the London session, you look at the framework, which is taking the high and low during 8 to 8:30, 5 to 9:30, so the overnight trading. How often are we going to go target London low with the CPI news? Very, very high probability. Now you might say, oh, well, look, it didn't work. Well, no, it did work, right? We can see on ES just to the right here that it did work. So I am going to mark out this SMT because it's important to know when the SMT is present, right? Because I can bullshit myself as much as I want and say, oh, I would have held to there. But starting from this point, SMT was present. So we'll look at that. But definitely some nice short opportunities from the open to go down there. And then once that SMT is present, which is still valid all the way here, we just want to know the starting point of when we first had our SMT, then you could trade some longs. And no matter if you were looking at both as an expansion or retracement, for me personally, my short was a retracement lower, and then I wanted to take a long continuation. I took both trades today and one loss. So managed to get my full 3 trades a day. It's been a while since I traded so much, pretty much. We'll go down to the 1 minute now and find those setups now that we have our frameworks. And I'm going to get that blue out of my face. I can't yet. Okay, soon enough. But once again, it's a little bit like yesterday, where the breaker block might have been a little bit harder to find for most people. But you just have to see it. It's those 2 candles that form a range, right? It's just when it's so tight, sometimes it's harder. I don't know. You guys can tell me, right? Because for me, finding breaker blocks is super easy now because I've done it so much. But you guys can let me know if any of you guys saw this one or traded this one today. Personally, here I see a swing high to a swing low. You can even use the large range, which is the same exact movement. As you guys know, I like to place both standard deviations on my chart. Very clear because you taught us well. Love to hear that, Wolfie. Love to hear it. And then you have that breaker block. What are you looking for? It's always the same thing, right, guys? I'm looking for an overlapping PD array. Fair value gap right after. 2 bars after forming the breaker block. So 2 minutes after forming the breaker block, you had your entry. Very minimal drawdown at the beginning, but this is where it gets a little weird, right? A little tricky, I should say, not a little weird. Because if we look further, you can see that we retrace into this gap. And let me actually remove this for a second. There we go. So we retrace multiple times here, but your entry is all the way to the left here. And then let's actually look at the stop loss first. There are no inversion fair value gaps. So you have fair value gap, order block, and order block. So stop would be all the way up at that swing high. And I did forget to mention that you also had lower time frame SMT here, which is, yeah, with this swing point. So that's why I said it didn't really matter if you saw the SMT on the 15-minute chart, because you had more recent SMT as well, which granted nice confluence to your trade. But as I was saying, this is your target. This is where you're trading, right? Okay, well, if your target is below these levels, then you're just holding on. And no matter if it went up and back around, it doesn't matter. Well, yes, it does. Because never in 1,000 years am I going to let a trade allow me to be up to R and not take profits. And what is my rule about take profits? You guys know very well. When I partial, I go break even. So this one is a little different. For me, my partial, very simple. I was looking at data low. 1 minute data low. What is data low? It's the low formed from the news. It is that simple. We don't have to overcomplicate it. We could give it a very nice name because that's what it is, right? But looking at CPI like that with our inability to go higher, and more importantly, what I was looking at is this inducement. This is what I call. I'm not the one who gave it its name or whatever, right? But this is what I know as inducement. What does that mean? What is inducement? Well, it's very simple. We have liquidity resting at this level. Now we're going close to that liquidity, but not taking it out. What does that tell me? Well, now this level is even better because we have more liquidity at this high, and it makes this level low resistance. Failure swing next to this, relative equal highs, stands for further very good target that we did not hit today. And that's staying on my charts because it is a very good objective to have for continuation tomorrow or even further into next week and so forth. But with that in mind, I understood that we needed to go for the last leg down. I never expected such a big move, I'm not gonna lie. And if we look right here, this is when the SMT was true for ES took out London low, right? So even as far as London low, I did not anticipate at all. For me, we were gonna go take out this low, and then we were either gonna stop here, or as you can see, always the same thing, right? Old consolidation, old consolidation. These are clear objectives for price. So this, with the 2 to 2.5 standard deviations, was just a great target for me all around, but I never expected it to go all the way down here. Clearly we did, right? In my case, I got my partial here. This wasn't my full objective. It was really just a partial because I was looking for at least this level. And as you can see, again, 2 to 2.5 of the smaller breaker deviations. Very clear, very pretty objective, but I got partialed and then break even. That's the truth about this short right here. I didn't get a chance to catch that. And now, were there any valid re-entries? Well, yes. I personally did not take it because, as I said, I was looking for longs into shorts. Shorts into longs, I'm sorry. So shorts, and then I wanted to go long. That long only came much later, which I did trade. I'm going to showcase it. But in case you took this, well, not loss. I was going to say loss, but you got broken even here after taking your partials. Then right as you got broken even, is your idea still valid? Let's start with this. Yes. It doesn't matter if it retraces back into it one last time. It just hit an important objective. So is it okay for me to take a continuation? Well, for me, that always goes back to the 5-minute chart, or 15-minute is if we have a very large range. This is pissing me off, guys. I really do apologize for those blue lines. I have no clue what they are. I'm probably just going to restart my PC and it's going to work fine, but yeah, really pissing me off. Anyways, looking at our 5-minute range, I'm going to be looking at this. And what am I interested in? First premium and efficiency. Where is my first premium and efficiency? Well, it is this order block. We did not reach it. Now, it's very deep in premium, though. So I'm going to go down the time frame. And when I say deep in premium, I'm always splitting it into quarters mentally, right, in my mind. But basically, I'm looking at this. And if my inefficiency is in the last quarter, I want to try and find something else along the way as well. And if we look at this, first premium and efficiency looks to be this liquidity. So actually, we just did not even reach it. So that's a worse setup, right? There's one thing missing. We did not hit our premium and efficiency. We did retrace to a premium, sure, but we had no clear objectives on that premium. So that's one less good thing for my continuation objective. And there's no SMT further at this place, but this one is still valid. So even though you have one thing wrong, you can't take the trade. This is not an A+ setup. This is an A setup. But as you guys know, as I've said many times over, I do trade those consistently because they make me money. It doesn't need to be perfect for it to be able to generate revenue, right? And so you have this breaker, and I mean, you don't need a genie. If you've been in here for a few times now, you can clearly tell we formed a breaker here. You have this large fair value gap just here with a beautiful entry. I did include the volume imbalance in this case, but truth is, same thing, right? You opened on the next one, so basically your entry would be the next bar's open because you opened into the fair value gap with the volume imbalance. I thought you want the first breaker tap. What do you mean by first breaker tap? Yeah. Gotta explain to me what you mean by that a little bit. First touch, not it coming back like a boomerang. Not it coming back like a boomerang. What do you mean first touch? Because when I'm talking about breakers, I always say use the first entry. Sorry, Perez, I'm just not understanding what you're saying. Oh, retesting later. No, of course, I don't want it to, and that's not an entry for me. So no, important to note, yes, I want that first retracement into an inefficiency. Yes, so this is not a valid entry at this level. 100%. As you're saying, I would never use an old breaker. I want that first move off of it. Yes. But here's the thing. Here I just got stopped out of my trade. Can I look, is my idea still good? Can I still look for a trade? That's what I meant. So no, I'm not just going to blindly keep shorting after I got stopped out break even. But my trade idea, which is a move lower, is still valid. So in this case, I can still look to short, which brings us to this setup with a whole new breaker block right here. I extended that one out in time, might have confused you, just because I saw the reaction off of it later. But this is not something I utilize in any sort of specific way. What I saw specifically was this setup right here. And actually, I have the wrong entry. I just noticed. So we inverse this this fair value gap and then retrace into it. So your entry would actually be even better. Wonderful. Let's mark it out correctly. All right, glad we're on the same page now. And from this objective, well, only valid targets for me would be this level, which gives you plenty for just a partial. So would definitely look for a partial. Why these levels? Once again, all consolidations. But if you think about it, look at this. Current daily range. I visualize it. I don't need to draw these things anymore because I use them so much, right? But let's go to our 15-minute chart. Why? Because it's a whole current daily range. So I'm going to use a 15-minute. Right, since it's a larger amount of time. Right here you have a low first discount inefficiency would technically be here. So you know what, let's actually mark it out as such. And then these are clear levels in those charts. 15-minute equal lows, 2.5 standard deviation. That is just clear to me. Current daily range. Got break even and didn't sell that second trade. Well, see, I got broken even after taking a partial. So being up 1 point something R at this point, I'm quite happy. Doesn't mean I stopped trading because, as I said, I was also looking for a long idea. So I was basically, all this time, I'm just waiting for a long setup to form. Do you guys see any bullish breakers in here? I don't, because there are none. There are none. Well, I mean, I'm seeing this now, which could be framed as a bullish breaker. Okay, so potentially one loss here, where I'm seeing a swing low to a swing high. So this is pretty much a bullish breaker. Yeah, I could frame this as a bullish breaker. So potential for one loss here. But I mean, I was short at this point, so I'm not going to close my short to go long. But going back to our objectives, this is our first discount and efficiency in our 15-minute chart. This level right here. My charts are getting clouded, but I mean, with that big blue thing, that's just something that's going to happen today. Whatever. And then you have some clear objectives with some relatively equal lows and old consolidation right here. A lot of potential. What is clear to me is that partial wouldn't be here. It would be at least to this level right here, but that's too low. So what's your next level? Well, this is my next potential objective, and it offers enough risk to reward. So I can take a partial here, go break even, and then just holding that trade and trailing that stop loss would have allowed for at least a target up to here. And as we can see, after you had your SMT with the S, so for me, that's just a sign to full close. And that would have been wrong in this case because it had a final push lower. But still, as I said, following rules, that would have just been me full closing that position. I did not personally take this continuation. Wish I did. But I was looking for longs. I was prioritizing my longs. I really thought that data low was going to be enough for us to frame continuations. So I didn't think we'd need to go back lower. And we clearly did, right? At this point in time, I also was looking to long this right after, right? You took out London low, and these red lines are really pissing me off as well. Give me a sec, guys. I am absolutely triggered today because of those big blue lines that have been on my chart the whole day since this morning. And I looked into it online. I did some searches, didn't find anything. 1003 was a unicorn, right? Let's look at 1003. 1003. I don't see that unicorn. So 1003, that candle. Do you mean because there's a breaker block near 1003? Is that what you mean? Or 1003 was an entry? There's a breaker block near 1003. This one, which we just very quickly looked at, which is a bullish breaker and would have led to a loss here. So entering here. Right, and I'm not showcasing it with any precision because truth is, would have still been looking for shorts or not. It really depended on your bias, but yes, there would be a long here. Where did you screw up? Nowhere. Truth is, nowhere. It was just choppy, right? Here, not going to any frequent objective. And at this point in time, if you ask me on this bar, 1010, you guys tagged me in the Discord, asked me, hey, what do you see, Ollie? I'm like, I have no fucking clue. Really. Yeah, London high taken. Framework to go lower. Definitely good there. But truth is, in cases like these where I am unsure where price is going, I don't trade. If not, you can trade mechanically. Which entry came first? The long entry or the short entry? Well, they both came on the exact same bar. So that doesn't really help. But if one candle gives you a short and a long entry, I wouldn't trade that. But I did not do anything in that regard. Well, see, being bullish was not wrong today for us. I was bullish as well. I just understood that we needed to retrace lower first. I just never expected it to need to retrace so far lower, right? That blue line is our first discount in efficiency. We shouldn't need to go further. But today we did, for some reason, which I don't know. I don't care. I keep it simple. I don't need to know why that happened. I just need to know how I can engage with it. But yes, Faraz, do I believe that this long is a good loss? 100%. That's a loss I'd take any day. Does that bring your anxiety levels lower? Lovely. Lovely. But just to get back on track here, I was looking along, right? As Faraz was at this point in time. I was looking along. I just did not get a single setup that would have offered it. So I had my bullish breaker that formed right here. That was my first bullish breaker. No inefficiencies, right? No bullish fair value gap, no bullish inversion fair value gap to enter on. So I just saw price keep bleeding. That's how I put it up. But now, what is this purple line and this black line? Midnight open, daily open. Our SMT is still valid since NASDAQ has not yet to take out London low. So is there still a valid framework here? Well, yes, 100%. Okay, well, now I have to find a breaker block. This is where it gets a little harder. Do you guys see a breaker block in here? Because using purely mechanical rules, I don't. Not at all. There is no swing low to swing high because there are no swing highs in all of this move lower. So when I see this back and forth on a 1 minute chart, that doesn't form a swing high. For me, that's just a sign to go back to the lower time frames. So I caught it along here and I'm going to showcase it. I did not need to go to the 15 second. And you guys will see why in a second, because as I said, these are ranges. You can see it on the 1 minute chart. It's just, it was bleeding very quickly, which means that we did not have time to form a swing high to a swing low. But you still have ranges here that later become breaker blocks. As we trade above, and now we retrace down lower, you don't even need a 30-second entry. I just wanted to see my range. If we look on the 1 minute, and you want to see for an entry, well, you form the breaker block here, and then you trade it back down into this. We'll refer to the 30-second entry for simplicity's sake, because we're using a 30-second breaker, right? And if we look, the unicorn is literally the bar after we form that breaker block. So very straightforward stuff. Now, 3PD array stop loss rule puts it at fair value gap, order block, and fair value gap here. That seems too picture perfect. Am I right? So let's just be pessimistic here. This is the correct stop loss. Well, actually, it's not pessimistic. It's the correct stop loss, right? It's 1 PD array, 2 PD array, and 3 PD arrays. So no, I'm not moving it. Fuck pessimism in this case. It's a good stop loss. I can't deny it just because it's perfect, which sometimes it does end up being. And as you guys can see from the return, definitely a lot of potential from a trade like this. You know what? Fuck it. I'm placing the bad stop loss. I don't like giving you guys too good of results publicly, because this is something, trading just in general is hard. So I don't like showing off the model too much and trying to entice people to use it through returns. I'll entice you guys to use it through simplicity, through having it be a clear rule-based model, right? Having a checklist. But I don't want to entice you to use it by, hey, look at how much money my model makes. I think that's just a trap made for influencers. But whatever, that's just me ranting here. Now, how would you find your objectives? Same way we always do, 5 minute. I think in this case, we have a pretty large range to reverse. So this is one of the cases where I'd like to refer to a 15 minute, just because I'll have a clearer picture of what's going on. And as soon as I say that, I don't think, is there a clear premium in efficiency? Yes, there is. And I understand my charts are probably really hard to look at the moment with that blue thing once again. So I did want to just mention that and apologize once again. Not my fault, but kind of is. And so looking at this, what is this line? It is a 15-minute inverse fair value gap, which is our first premium in efficiency. Very clear partial for us. And even with the wrong stop loss, you'd be at 3R at this level. I just don't like giving you guys unrealistic expectations. Yes, my bot calculates 3PD arrays stop loss. Always. Always, always, always. That's the one rule which I can never, ever get enough of. That rule just simplified everything for me. When public bot, probably never, Wolfie. Probably never. I don't want to provide bots to people. One thing I may provide at some point is something I've talked about in the past. It's signals, but no, I will not be sharing any of my bots anytime soon. And that's to not say never. And then after this partial, what would be your final objective? Well, very clearly, current high of day, these relative equal highs, that's just a clear objective. But then you have SMT along the way, which just makes you want to slow down. So I'll showcase it to you guys. So this, we took it out on NASDAQ. And if we look at the same level, which is actually this one. Okay, so I was looking at the wrong one. I was referring to this one, but we did not take it out on either asset. So we had divergence, just not SMT, because this is lower, in case you guys didn't notice. So no SMT specifically at that high. Why did I notice that this morning? And even looking now on the 1 minute chart, I don't see any SMT on the highs. Perhaps somewhere along the way, but no SMT. Sorry, guys. Would never trust a bot to do this or play with money. Well, you'd be surprised. But just honestly looking at this, getting back over this trade, and this is your range, by the way, that we looked at on the lower time frame. A little bit of a harder trade to spot, but then you have those small standard deviations, and then the big breaker formed through the reversal gives you a very nice target of just, hey, look at these levels, 2 to 2.5. We took it out, and now we're reversing. That's just, you want to take profit somewhere here. As it's falling down, as soon as I see the rejection of this level, that's a clear, at least to trail, right? A clear signal to trail. But you got to know that after this partial was met, your stop is break even, and then you're just trailing it up. And in the same way I explained yesterday, Expansion higher, retracement, we have a continuation. Stop is here. Expansion higher, we don't have a retracement yet. Here we have a lot, basically consolidations, and I know this will be clear objectives in the future. So placing my stop here, then here, then here, and then I just get stopped out here. So very simple how I trail my stop. You'll see in a long condition, right? Yeah, no, I don't trail using 3PD arrays at all. So as I'm showcasing here, in a long condition, I look for an expansion. Then I'll look for a retracement that works. How do I know it works? Because it breaks that high again. And as soon as that high gets broken, my stop gets trailed to this new low we formed. So that's very basic market structure. I don't even use premium and discount for retracements. Like for example, here we had a retracement, then we had a continuation and broke that high. My stop is now here. Use this logic throughout this whole leg. Find me where you get stopped out. Right here. My pleasure, NJ. And yes, it is actually pretty easy to code NJ if you want to add that in. Definitely. For those of you who don't know, NJ, great coder. Great coder, coding a lot of ICT concepts into NinjaTrader at the moment. If you ever start sharing anything, NJ, you're free to share it here in the Rise Discord. Always said it. Never going to back down from that. So, if ever, always open for it. But yes, very simple logic. And this is how I trail. And I don't always trail my stop. That's the truth. And I never trail it before taking a partial. For me, it's really like one and done, right? I need to be right or I need to be wrong. And sometimes I can be wrong and get a break even on my trade. Sometimes I can be right and not make money on that trade. I don't mind. It's just my partial is my partial, and that's going to be my target. And it's either going to reach that or I'm going to get stopped out or break even. I'm not going to close a little something. Like, I'm not going to start trailing my stop before my clear objective is met. And then I can start trailing. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. And I mean, for today, we can look at some PM opportunities, but truth is, there was nothing interesting here, right? There was a lunch raid that you could have looked to trade, but I didn't see an entry. So looking always at the noon to 1:30 range, you did not reach any objective, right? In the lunch was consolidation. So I need to use the full noon to 1:30 range. Let's clear this up for a second. Now you have the high that's formed here at 12:38. Why am I wasting my time drawing this shit? I mean, I coded an indicator for it, right? What's the point? There we go. Lunch high, lunch low. As soon as lunch low is taken out here, you can look for longs. But I did not see an entry when I reviewed it very, very fast, to be honest. Well, I mean, you have an entry here, and your target is lunch high, so it would still be valid. It's just, it's pretty far, right? Let's go with our implied dealing range here, because that's how I make those decisions. Split it into quarters. My trade entry is, it's right at that midpoint. I mean, I could lie to you guys and tell you that's not a valid entry. Sometimes I take it, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll convince myself like, hey, look, I mean, it dove under the midpoint here. I can take this trade. And sometimes I'll say, well, it's too close to the midpoint, so I'm not taking it. Truth is, on a day like this, you had plenty of opportunities short and long in the morning. Why the fuck are you still on your charts in the PM? You want to know how you don't take that loss here? Or that weird break-even trade? Because it's not a loss, it just did not reach its full objective, so probably would have been a break-even in this case, or a small win. But no, you shouldn't be trading at that point in time. So I'm not going to discuss onto how you can, how you can trade that. Because you have a successful short, followed by another successful short, followed by a successful long. And yes, there was one loss on a long that we looked at right here, potentially, which either you had this winning short or you had the losing long. But still, very successful day. Little worse than what I usually expect for CPI price action, to be honest with you guys. Usually this is a very good day for me, but it was a little weird today. It was just a higher resistance than anticipated. And I mean, you look at this range, it's nothing like the previous days we've seen, right? So definitely harder for price to go higher than to go lower, right? Just keeps bleeding as it just wants to push higher. Do we have any questions about that? Taking one win and walking away is a powerful thing, definitely for us, especially when you're trading prop firms. Because I don't know about you guys, but my goal with prop firms is not to go compound my returns and grow the account. My goal is to get paid. So I have consistent risk on prop firms. I don't risk up, I don't risk down. I just risk my money, and as soon as I can get a payout, I take it. So going for some base hits every day is really a great strategy for prop firm trading. What time range is the lunch session? It's noon to 1:30. That's the time range we're looking at, Alex. But in some very specific conditions, I see, that's why I wish I took notes when I do these price action reviews, because I went super in depth about that in one of our past PA reviews. But in some conditions, you can refer to it as the noon to 1 range instead of noon to 1:30. And that's if your morning has been consolidating. That's the first moment where you can expect that. Or if your lunch is a retracement and it has retraced to your objective. So your objective is met during lunch. I think yesterday we talked, you should watch yesterday's review. There was a beautiful example of using the noon to 1 range, if I'm not mistaken. Were you thinking about highs of news to be taken as well? Yeah, for me. This black line you see right here, that's data high, relative equal highs, the high of the news. That was my full objective. So for me, as I said, I just got trailed out in this big move lower. I don't even think I trailed all the way up here. I'm pretty sure my trail was all the way down here. So I pretty much got stopped at the same level as my take profit, just barely above. But I had the tighter stop loss that we looked at in the beginning. So still a very great day overall for me. It's just with CPI, I expected some better price action. It did not provide what I was expecting. And I mean, you can request from the markets, right? Good to know. Awesome. Do you guys have any further questions before we call it a night, right? I always try and make these shorter, but we still end up being in here for 40 minutes. So I do want to take a second, thank all of you for being here. Appreciate the support always. I'm glad I can be of service. That is a wrap. NQ1 vs mini contract. What do you mean for us? Looking at the continuous contract instead? NQ1 is the continuous contract. So I don't trade on this one, but it doesn't matter, because if you're trading on this one, it's going to place your position on the contract specifically. You can't trade NQ1. If you try and trade it, it's gonna send your position to the mini contract, but you'll still be able to see your trade and whatever on this. Why not just use NQ1? Honestly, no clue. I mean, there's no difference. I could look at NQ1 on the 1 minute, or I can look at the contract directly. What I like about it is that when I'm drawing on this contract, it doesn't show up on my higher time frame chart. So see, now you can't see any of the drawings that I just drew here. So that's really the main reason why. And also you use NQ1 because on the higher time frame chart, you have all the data from the previous contracts as well. So you can see a daily chart and a 4-hour chart and see something, right? Have some candle resolutions. I am so pissed every time I see this blue. I'm really going to try and fix it. I think it just doesn't recognize that I'm premium, and that is some bullshit they make. I don't know. I'm going to need to mess around with it. Given today's high resistance, any clue what tomorrow will be more expansive? Honestly, the markets are so volatile right now. Any single day should be very aggressive. It seems like it's having a hard time going up. That's what I recognize, especially with such a big wick. So, you know what I think, Speacock? I think if we're going to go lower tomorrow, we're going to go bleed, because the markets are in that, they're ready to bleed as they have been for the last 2 to 3 weeks. I think it's easier to go down right now than to go up. But a few days of high resistance going up, and then we can expand past this new week opening gap, and then there's nothing stopping us for us to go higher. So no, I don't necessarily expect better price action unless we go lower. That's my humble opinion on the matter. But no matter if it's pretty or not, there's always opportunity to make money. It just makes it less fun, at least for myself. That's how I interact with it. All right, we're going to call it a night. Once again, Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Have a great night, and we'll see each other tomorrow for another PA review. Have a good one, guys. Bye.